hear?
Did you hear?
Did you hear?
Oh my God, guys.
Jake has a podcast.
I can't believe Jake has a podcast.
Oh my God, Jake has a podcast.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jake Workman, and this is Oh My Pod, you guys, a musical theater and pop culture podcast. Oh my pod, you guys, we have so much to talk about this week. Where do I even begin? First of all, I had the absolute pleasure of seeing the new Broadway musical, Maybe Happy Ending, starring Darren Criss. You guys, this show was so beautiful. I kind of didn't know what to expect, or like I didn't know how much it was going to like impact me, but it was just breathtaking. It was so just simple and lovely, and the staging was gorgeous. The design was incredible. Helen, who plays opposite Darren Criss, was unreal. I need to look up her full name. This is thrilling. Helen J. Shen, you guys. She's 24 years old. Broadway debut. She needs to be nominated for a Tony for this. It was incredible. I laughed, I cried. I sound like Gwyneth. I laughed, I cried, I danced, I got a shot, and I had many epiphanies. But truly, it was just breathtaking. You must see Maybe Happy Ending at the gorgeous, what's the theater called? Belasco. The Belasco Theater, which is also where I saw Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Like 10 years ago. I hadn't been to the Belasco since 2015 when I saw, or maybe even 2014 when I saw Hedwig. I didn't actually get to see Darren as Hedwig, but that's okay. I saw Michael C. Hall and he was gorgeous. But anyway, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We have to dive right into this week's Broadway World Recap, brought to you by my amazing pals at BroadwayWorld.com, because mama, things are happening in the world of Broadway. First of all, ladies, we have to talk about the opening of the Broadway revival of Gypsy, starring Audra McDonald. You guys, I will be honest. I will own up to it. I will say my truth, which is that I was nervous about Miss McDonald in this role. I know, blasphemy. Audra kind of can do no wrong. However, just because of previous people who have done the role and who it was written for, I was a little skeptical about Miss Audra McDonald singing the score. However, I might just be singing a different tune, pun intended, because from everything that I've seen, they released this incredible B-roll. They have gorgeous recordings of Audra and, the rest of the cast. It looks incredible. It looks so beautiful. I mean, Joy Woods, obviously, come on. Friends of the pod, Miss Leslie Margarita and Miss Lily Thomas are both the strippers in the show. And my God, they look incredible. Also, my darling friend Aaliyah James is in the ensemble. I cannot wait to see it. So congratulations on an incredible opening. You guys, the red carpet was star-studded. There were so many celebs there. I mean, this is a huge revival. Like, I think people are finally like clocking like, oh yeah, this is Gypsy, starring 6-time Tony winner Audra McDonald. Crazy. So congratulations on opening, and I cannot wait to see the show. Okay, next, you guys, we got the very exciting casting announcement that Miss Erica Jane of Real Housewives Stardom is going to return to Broadway to play Roxy Hart in Chicago, the musical. And you guys, it's just so funny to me. Every time like we get the, sort of quote unquote stunt casting announcements, people are always like, oh my gosh, are you so excited? Like, you must have known. Girl, they don't tell us jack diddly. So we never know who is coming in. There are always like, whispers in the wings of who could potentially do it. But I'm so excited that Erica Jane will be back. I was not there yet at Chicago Broadway when she was there last. So I'm very excited to get to meet her and work with her. And yeah, she's gonna be fabulous. I mean, everyone in the building adores her. Everyone, is just raves about how wonderful she is as a person and as a performer. So I cannot wait to welcome Miss Erica Jane back to the Ambassador starting in January, Monday, January 20th to be exact, of 2025. You guys, 2025. It's literally almost here. That's insanity. But she will only be with us for a short time. She'll be done February 9th. So get your tickets now, darlings. Next, you guys, in another really exciting casting announcement, Broadway World shared that Sarah Hyland of Modern Family fame, among other, amazing accolades that she has, is going to take over the role of Daisy Buchanan in Broadway's The Great Gatsby, which is so exciting. I don't know if people know, or maybe they do, and I think I'm cooler than everyone else. Sarah was just in the most recent sort of like staging developmental process of Just in Time, the new Bobby Darin musical. But obviously will no longer be available to do that because she's taking over for Daisy. I'm really excited about this. She was wonderful in Just in Time. She has a lovely singing voice and she's hilarious. So I'm very excited for her. And also, in the same vein, Miss Eva Noblezada, who is going to play her final performance, was just announced to be taking over the role of Eurydice in the London production of Hadestown. So things are moving, things are grooving, things are shifting around, but very excited for both of these divas. I can't wait to see. Next, you guys, we got the very exciting announcement that Dead Outlaw, the off-Broadway smash hit, is transferring to Broadway in the spring of 2025, playing the Longacre Theater. You guys, I was not able to see the show off-Broadway, so I am thrilled beyond to be able to get tickets and go see it at the Longacre. Obviously, Swept Away will be done by that point. They end performances in like a week and a half from now, but Dead Outlaw will be taking over. And you guys, it stars one of my darling friends, Miss Julia Nightel. I gotta have Julia on the pod. She is everything and more. The vocals are ridiculous, but she's also just one of the loveliest people ever. And she is gonna be back on the Broadway boards. I cannot wait. So you guys, Dead Outlaw is going to play the Longacre starting on April 12th with an official opening night of April 27th of 2025. And you guys, this has been the Broadway World Recap. Oh, my pod, you guys. I am so excited to welcome my next guest to the show. She is a Tony-winning actor, a professor of theater, and truly one of the most delightful people I've had the pleasure of speaking to. Please welcome Miss Michele Pawk.
Hola!
Welcome to the pod. Michele, I'm so excited to have you here. Before we even dive into anything, I always ask my guests, where are you calling in from on this fine day?
It's also actually a gorgeous day out here in South Orange, New Jersey.
Gorgeous.
Yes, in my dining room experience.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yep.
I just had the pleasure of spending 24 hours in Connecticut, and let me tell you, the ability to breathe fresh air outside of New York City is second to none. I wish that I had the experience of like a house and a yard outside of New York.
Well, maybe someday you will. You're still
someday.
My husband and I moved out here when our son was 5. Kind of to get him in on the school track out here, and like hands down best thing we ever did for him.
Amazing.
Us, for everybody. Yeah, it's awesome.
Love it. And you've still managed to forge, both for yourself and your husband John, your careers did not ever, it wasn't ever a hindrance, because clearly you have been able to get in and out of the city.
Well, they make it easy here, except, when the trains don't work. But when the trains work, it's awesome. Half an hour. We lived in Washington Heights before that, and it takes us maybe 10 minutes longer to get here than it did to get there. So it wasn't that much of a hardship for us. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, I mean, of course, we will chat all about your husband, because I would love to know how you guys met. But before we do, I just wanted to tell you that I feel like I have so many personal connections to you, not even having met you before, because Seussical was the very first show I ever did when I was 9 years old. I was JoJo, and I remember listening to that cast album, but specifically Amazing Maisie, a million and one times, and I wanted to be her. Of course, I was thrilled to be JoJo, whatever, but oh my God, did I want to be Amazing Maisie. So I am just so like delighted to speak to you. And then of course to know that you went on to play Mama Morton in Chicago on Broadway, which was my Broadway debut. So lots of like little weird interwoven connections that I have been like just fascinated by, for so long. So I'm so excited to have you here.
And you live with one of my dear friends and former students.
I do. So let's talk about Wagner College.
This is where you insert one of my headshots that he just...
Yeah. Yes. These fabulous headshots. They look incredible. Shout out to Mr. Jonah Hale and his incredible photography work. He's a phenomenal photographer, of course, and also one of my dearest friends, and my roommate. He's down the hall from this recording right now. But yeah, let's talk about Wagner. So you obviously forged a very, very fruitful career before you became a professor, which we will talk about. But what led you to wanting to teach? Did you always know that that was going to be part of your life?
Not necessarily. And I, to be really honest, I also wasn't sure I was going to be very good at it or any good at it. But I had sort of reached a point. Our boy was then Jack was then 6, and now he was starting to go to school all day. And my husband and I were then working at night and all weekends and all holidays. And we started to, miss large chunks of his life. And so whatever various projects that I was working on, they weren't good enough to take me from my home. I don't know that anything would have really. So I actively, this is the true story. I was at an audition for a musical. In the waiting room is like every broad my age. Any one of us could have done this thing, but they make us all jump through these hoops. 17 pages of material. I was like, mother of God, I need something else. I was like, I don't have the bandwidth. And I was complaining to my friend Randy Graff, who was also in the waiting room. And she's like, well, what do you want to do? She cuts right to it. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I want to teach. I said, I've been teaching a little bit in the city, like kind of self-motivated, my own stuff, which I really enjoyed. I don't know. Literally, she says, well, I graduated from Wagner College and they threw me this honorary degree a couple of years ago. And I can put you in touch with them. That's literally how it happened.
Wild.
What? She put me in touch with the chair of the department, who put me in touch with the guy that ran kind of the senior experience, all the senior classes, which is actually the track that I moved into there. I came and did a master class. A year later, the chair of the department kind of cold called me out of the blue and said, hey, we're replacing someone in the department who had unfortunately passed away. And I was like, yeah, I'll throw my hat into the ring. Literally, I knew nothing about it. If it wasn't for her, I would have I didn't know the difference between a CV and a resume. I didn't know what that was. So she talked me through the whole thing. She was like, no, it's not your acting resume. I was like, oh, shit. Okay.
Okay.
And I've been there. I just left. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, did you?
I did. I just finished my final semester there.
Congratulations.
Bittersweet.
Of course.
Yeah, but I'm about to start this project in the new year, and I've done double duty before, and not really well. It's exhausting because you don't get a day off for 6 months, and so
right.
I have been thinking about leaving teaching anyway, and the timing, it just worked out great. And so
fantastic.
I know. Lucky.
Well, congratulations to you. I do have to say, I think it is really, really amazing. Not only that you have been able to balance that, doing the 8 show schedule and also being a professor, but I think it's so exciting that up and coming artists had the opportunity to study with people who are actively working in the industry. And I spoke to a couple of people. Oh, I've spoken to many people on the podcast, but my friend Peter Smith reminded people, to not worship your professors, to not, put these
Yeah.
people on pedestals in the way that you might be asked to or
Yeah.
expected to. And so you know, to be able to study under someone who is actively working in the current industry of New York City theater is just a really, really special and inspiring experience for these students. I got to study with wonderful professors who were working professionally in the regional area, but to be a student in New York City or on Staten Island and be able to come into the city and see your teachers in Broadway shows and then go to class with them the next day. It's just so cool. And you've had so many. I mean, I had darling Emma Pittman on the podcast, who's now gone on to do 3 Broadway shows, which is insane. But it's just really, really cool that these people get to know you and forge an actual relationship with you outside of what it means to be a Broadway star, because you are a bona fide Broadway diva.
I love that. How fun. It's funny. I don't think of myself like that, but I love it's funny. That's funny. I mean, thank you for that compliment. I would hope that my students would feel the same. I think they do. They're really great about articulating my value, which is lovely, lovely, lovely.
Mhm.
But where did you go to school?
I went to the Hart School in
Oh,
Hartford, Connecticut.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, really great program. All right. No,
Yes.
also you did. I was curious because sometimes I do think that's like an interesting conversation, right, for kids coming into programs right now. I mean, I always tell kids, it doesn't really matter where you go. I know nobody likes to hear that because
Mm-hmm.
what really is important is who are the professors that are teaching at that time in that school. So
100%.
sometimes the shiny schools, maybe going through a transition, maybe not, but
Yep.
so many, young adults like hang all their hats on. Well, if I don't get into Michigan, I'm not good enough. And it's like, not really true,
Right.
not really true.
100%.
And sometimes like Emma Pittman's like a fantastic example, right? Emma Pittman came into Wagner already an extraordinary dancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fully formed, like curious human, eager to study, right? But was very honest with herself about what she was good at and what she really wanted to learn. And she put herself in situation after situation over 4 years where she was like, I'm really not good at this. This really makes me uncomfortable. Please challenge me in this way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of ethic, I think if you do that when you go to college, think about work on the thing you're not good at.
Totally.
Right?
And what a refreshing take on that from someone who is a professor, because I feel like a lot of times collegiate programs are auditioning students to number one, to fill a quota, and also to fill this idea of like, well, we're going to do All Shook Up, so we need people who can do All Shook Up. And it's like, is this not a place to learn? Is this not like, how are we auditioning for shows and not auditioning for for a platform to learn? It's kind of mind-blowing. So lovely to hear that from you, that the point is to challenge students in the ways that they need in order to teach them.
Thanks for that. I think about it a lot actually in my own journey as an actor slash all of it. It's a ride, right? and I've I've been gifted some challenges, and I'm very excited to kind of get back in the middle of that and figure it out, right? And try to remember that it's not about the result, but it's about the effort, and it's about sharing a gift and moving through that, even when it's not perfect. So
Yeah.
I'm in a little bit of that on my own.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
very excited to ask you about Just in Time, because I have actually had the pleasure of seeing a couple of iterations of this show. I got to see it when you guys were still in the rehearsal studio, just like as like a, really teeny tiny presentation early on. And then I got to see it in the basement of the church, which was a much more involved, actually sort of
Yeah.
staged experience. So I'm very excited to get to see it in its full glory. But I would love to know about your sort of road to this show and your process in it, because it's not often that I, as a performer, get to witness the journey and see the different sort of stepping stones to where a final product ends up, which I think honestly is kind of a disservice. And I wish that more actors got the opportunity to see that, because if you're not part of it, if you're not working on it, you don't see
Yeah.
the changes and the process.
Right.
But what has it been like for you to develop this new show? I mean, it's such a lovely piece of theater.
Well, I mean, look, it was just a gift at this time in my life. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. My husband and I were doing Wicked about a year ago when they were doing their first kind of reading. And I said, "Oh God, no! I can't. I'm passing. I'm teaching school. I can't tack on one more project, right?" So I wasn't available, and then I go to see Marilee, and Jonathan is an old friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, like a child of mine, really. He played my child in a play years ago, in a Craig Lucas play. And so we've stayed close, over all these years. And now he's talking to me about this project in his dressing room. And of course, what am I going to say? I can't look at that boy and tell. I was like, okay. I'll come in. I'll do a reading. And then that led to, of course, me falling in love with, everybody in the room.
Of course.
Alex Timbers and Andrew Resnick and, Warren Light and now Isaac. I mean, it's just like crazy, and all the actors. So then I got hooked. And then I started to do research on Bobby Darin. Like, I knew who Bobby Darin was because I grew up on like big band stuff. I loved all of that. So I was very familiar with his work. At least I thought I was. Then I started to research that. I was like, oh, crap. Oh, he wrote that? Oh, wow. He wrote that and such recorded it? How interesting. Oh, he was married to Sandra Dee? I didn't know.
Right.
Connie Francis was I didn't know any of this, and I didn't know the whacked out sort of history of his life, which is what they focus on, in this play. But it's such a great story, right? About not wasting time. I always like to think about when I'm in a project, like if we had to distill this down to like, what's this piece about? Well, and it is a reminder to all of us. I mean, this was a man who had health issues from, the time that he was a kid, right? He had probably congenital heart. I have no rheumatoid heart stuff. And they didn't know what they didn't know. And so he was always facing the clock. And because of it, and Jonathan and I had talked about this a lot, because he had to be, because he didn't feel well, a lot of times when he was performing, he had to be so present. He had to think about where he was getting breath because he didn't really have it. And he had to think about the ways in which he had to sort of alter his performance or change it. And I think about like what a great lesson that is,
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it was certainly, speaking to your point of just how much I think we don't know about him and his story. I remember being surprised basically at every scene. New information is new information, and
Right.
you're sort of thinking like, how have I not known all of this about this person? And then
Mm-hmm.
of course, act 2, bombs drop and things go crazy. But I have to say too that I have been continually um pleased and excited about the way that you are able to showcase what a mature woman can do, not just in terms of acting, but in terms of singing as well in this show, because often I feel like women are not written in a complicated way anymore, and
Mm.
with nuance and with perspective. And this role that you get to play, and the other female roles in the show are really beautifully complex, and I'm very excited for you to get to do it at Circle in the Square, and for people to get to see you do an original role like this again, because it's just really exciting. I'm just thrilled about it. I can't wait to see Jonathan get to do his thing, because my God, it's incredible.
I mean, it just doesn't really get any better than that. It's, you know what I mean? He's extraordinary. And when a vehicle matches like an artist, it's, yeah, people will want to see it. That performance will be special.
Totally.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, I would love to know about your road to the arts for yourself. Did you have an artistic upbringing? Were there people in your life who pushed you in the direction of theater and acting and music, or was that just how did it come to be for you?
Oh, that's funny. Well, funny, not funny, but it's funny to me because I grew up in the middle of nowhere in very rural Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And surrounded by a lot of like mostly dairy farms, but farms. Um, and I mean, you have to imagine. I mean, I'm old, right? So, seriously, I graduated from high school in 1980. So, like growing up in the 70s, in the middle of nowhere, like thinking about a career in the art, it just wasn't like a thing. There were
Right.
schools. There were like two, and I auditioned at both of them eventually. But I will say, like my parents were so supportive, like all the way through. My mother threw me into dance class because I was so uncoordinated, and she, I think, was worried that I was going to fall every 5 steps. And I'm so grateful to her and to Miss Lee Garrard, who I'm sure was so frustrated with me over the years. But I'm so grateful because I learned all about Luigi, in the middle of nowhere. My dad was very musical, sang in a doo-wop, a band in the 50s. Well, his friends on the corner, like literally, that's what you did in a small town.
Sure.
So, you'd have family reunions and he'd say, come on, Shell, let's get up and sing, let's sing. And so, my sort of love for all of that, and my uncle who taught me how to play the piano. And then when I didn't practice, once my mother would leave the room, he'd be like, do you want to sing? I'd be like, yes, yes. So, I mean, I never thought that, you grew up in a really, artsy like family, but I kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of did, not in
Yeah.
any sort of career way, but, and then I go to a small liberal arts school outside of Erie, actually, between Erie and Pittsburgh, Allegheny College. Beautiful, like beautiful. And at the end of your sophomore year, which is what happens at every college everywhere, you have to declare a major. And I freaked out because I think I was going to be an anthropologist.
Wow.
My dad was like, yeah, really? I was like, yeah, it's really the only classes I like. I liked in psych, I liked studying people. And, he was like, yeah, okay. And he said it was a gift, right? What do you love to do more than anything? And I was like, well, I love to be on stage more than anything. And he was like, well, then that's what you should do. And until that,
Wow.
I know, right? What a gift. I hadn't really
Yeah.
thought about it. And then I auditioned at Carnegie Mellon and University of Cincinnati, and then went to Cincinnati.
Wow. Fantastic. So you go through your collegiate career, cut to you're making your Broadway debut in Male. What was that experience like for you? Had you been in the city for a long time before this was dropped into your ether?
No, I actually was living with my ex-husband. I don't think we were married at that time, but we were living in Los Angeles. After college, we did a job in Florida, and then we moved to LA. Don't really know why. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but I knew I could work out there, so I went. And Mail, Mail, a Michael Rupert musical, by the way. He wrote it and starred in it. It started at the Pasadena Playhouse. So that's where it all began. And it was a huge hit out there. It was super fun and oh my God, so great. We had just had a blast. And then they found some kind of producers, and then we went to the Kennedy Center and then moved into Broadway for a very short stint. Yeah. It was
Wow.
it was so much fun. And there's always kind of a stigma, I think, when things come from LA, people in New York, like, let me see. And it was just,
I'll be the judge of that.
oh, really? You're gonna tell us what? I think because it was just fun and creative and yeah, I don't know. But we
New.
lived.
So did you then, I mean, you've just done so many shows that are truly iconic, but going on to originate a principal role, to originate Irene in Crazy for You as your second Broadway show, what was like the difference for you in terms of footing? Did you feel like you were more established then, or was that sort of you cutting your teeth and just throwing yourself into this career?
If you don't mind, I'll tell you this story. But
Please.
So after Mail closed, went back to LA because that's where I lived. And then, I don't know, however long after that, maybe a year or so, because mostly I was doing TV out there. There's not a whole lot of theater out there. So this Crazy for You auditioned. And so I think I had been seen once in LA, and then they said, oh, we want to call you back. So I had to fly myself cross country for the callbacks for Crazy for You. And oh my God, it was just like so much fun. The only like dance thing, I mean, I could throw my head with the best of them and I style and swag, but I don't really have any technique. I mean, I don't, except I was a tapper, right?
Period.
So of course it was Stroman in a room and we were all tapping. So I got cast as one of the Pink girls, one of the Pink ladies originally in Crazy for You. And I moved back out to LA. It was probably the hardest decision I ever had to make, thinking I didn't know whether I wanted to move myself across the country at that time in my life. And so I passed on the opportunity to be in the play. And not that long after that, maybe 6 months or so, I get a phone call from the casting office. The incredibly talented, I won't mention names, but this woman was incredible. She was on the road doing another show and had been cast originally to do Irene Roth, and these said producers wouldn't let her out of her contract. And so she couldn't take the job and originate that part, which of course, 1,000 of us have these stories, and I'm sure that you know what I mean? People,
Yes.
The way it works, right? How great. So this role became available again, very like the week before they started rehearsals. And so the casting person said, will you come back to LA? I was like, I had no money. I was like, will you fly me to LA? They were like, no. So I flew myself to LA again, or to New York, pardon me. And then was in, and in those days you auditioned on the Schubert stage, and there you were,
Crazy.
Ocarent, and everybody. I just like unbelievable, and I got cast as Irene that particular day. You know what I mean? It was like later in the week, like a Thursday. They said we start rehearsals on Monday. Fly back, get your life together, and get back out here. And then
Wow.
I know, crazy, right? And that changed my life. And in some ways, it's like there's a real lesson in for all of us, in asking for what you want in this business. And sometimes it means not working. Sometimes it means I knew for me and my life at that moment, I wanted to take a step up to a principal part, and so I was I gambled, and obviously I lost the first time out. So I was very lucky that opportunity presented itself again.
Yeah, I mean, it paid off tenfold, clearly, because
I know,
you've.
and again, you think about like the serendipity of all of it. I mean,
Mhm.
it just,
But that's what everyone says. I mean, to your point, we all have these stories. Every person I talk to on the podcast is like, if I had done this, I wouldn't have been able to do this. And if I got cast in this and it fell through, and then miraculously something else
yeah,
grew out of that, and the relationships with those people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's never linear, which is such a beautiful
Hmm.
thing to be reminded of, is that like there's no such thing as a hierarchy, and there's no such thing as a linear plot line for any of us. So
Even the crappy things that happen. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, so you have had the opportunity to do so many original things, but you have also replaced people in a lot of things. And I'd love to know the difference for you between getting to do a full rehearsal process, and really do the research for yourself and make things your own, versus being plugged into an already well-oiled machine like Chicago or Wicked, or these big.
Hairspray, same. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. It's uh, it's a challenge, and a fun challenge, right? To make a part your own that wasn't developed for you. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? It was set on somebody else, and that's always the gift about being in the room, when you're creating something, because you're part of that process, and your ideas. I mean, you can pick up the script for Crazy for You, and there'll be a bit in there that is now in the stage direction that was something that I made up.
That you did.
Right. And now, like, there's 1,000 million like young girls like have to be stuck on that bit, which I feel bad. Come up with your own.
No, don't feel bad for them.
But that's the difference, I guess. And I've been really lucky. I feel like I should knock on something that
Yeah.
anytime I've come into a machine, the creative people like putting me in were very encouraging of like me finding my own thing, wanting to.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Mama Morton is like, "Hello, I am nothing like many of the women who have come." Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I remember in the middle of that process, right? I was like, oh, I am totally lost. And I remember like calling Walter Bobby. I was like, you have to get down here. I don't know what I'm doing. Because we have the impulse that we want to kind of like honor the people that came before, right?
Sure.
But I can't be, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So I've been really lucky. Lisa Laguio over at Wicked, and Matt Lenz over
Yeah.
at Hairspray. I was just really lucky that Mamma Mia too, for that we rehearsed for 4 weeks.
That's crazy. I mean,
Usually,
kind of unheard of.
Yeah, I know, I know. They were like replacing a whole bunch of principals, so we all came in together. So that's why I think they gave us so much time over there. But mostly, you rehearse in, 10 days or something, and then you're on.
Right.
And you try
Have
not
a one put
to
in.
by the train, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The freight
Yes.
on it, and you just don't want to get like smashed.
Absolutely. So I would love to hear about your experience doing Hollywood Arms, for which you won a Tony Award. Um, it's always so incredible to me that I get to speak to people who, I saw on TV accept the award. Like it's just like my young tiniest memories of like watching the Tonys and being just like absolutely gobsmacked watching these people accept these awards. So I would love to hear your experience, not only about winning the award, but working with people like Carol Burnett and making something that was truly original and really, really special.
Yeah, like, Hal Prince, Linda Lavin, Frank Wood.
Insane.
Yeah, Donna Lynn. I mean, it was like,
Yes, Donald Champlin.
right? Just geniuses all the way across the board. It
Mm-hmm.
was, again, I look at, you can zoom out, over time, and just how lucky I was, right? How lucky I was that, my friend Brad Rouse, who was then assisting Hal Prince, took cabaret off my resume because he thought that if Hal saw that I was in this revival, he would have opinions about my work, right? Because done the original, and and things like that, and then going into the audition room, and I reminded Carol of her mother, essence wise, and at that time her
Wow.
hair was like crazy bright red, and so I yeah, I just like, I think about how lucky I was all the way across the board. And, Carol had written that piece with her daughter, Carrie Hamilton. And in between the time I was cast and the time that we were supposed to go to the Goodman in Chicago, Carrie passed away. And I thought, oh, this is not going to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Carol's going to want to mourn, be by herself. And it was it was such a beautiful lesson to me about the way in which she wanted to honor Carrie by showing up every day in rehearsal in Chicago. Like, she showed up every day to work on that play with us, and I'll just never forget it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And how extraordinary too that you then get to hold a physical piece of that memory with you in the form of a Tony Award, to have your work recognized and celebrated by your peers on something that already meant so much to you must just be extraordinary.
What a lovely way of putting that. That's such a great way to think about it, because I agree. It's, people say it, but it's actually, I think, really true. It really is an honor to be recognized in a season with, tons of incredible performances.
Yeah.
By your peers. It really is an honor just to be recognized, in a short list, let alone to then, to actually win one. And I think about it a lot. I think about it as I go see things, and then I think Gavin Creel's performance in Into the Woods was like one of my favorite in that season. I thought what he did with that part, I get honored thinking about him. So good, so good. And remembering that it doesn't put value on your work if you don't get recognized. You know what I mean? And I've thought about incredible performances over the years. And again, the serendipity, and there's a lot of luck involved in all of that. And, So thanks for, I'm sorry, that was a roundabout way of like saying it really is an honor to be recognized. There's like so many things that uh, uh, are at work for all of that, or at play, you know what I mean? And the universe has to line all that up, and trying to remember not to place your value on, whether somebody deems you, worthy. It's hard. This business
Yeah.
is hard, and
Oh yeah.
your self-esteem,
Hmm. Well, I absolutely love the video that does exist on YouTube of you accepting the award and your beautiful speech, but also your gorgeous, handsome, dashing husband standing up and giving you that big embrace. Please, would you tell me about how you crossed paths first with Mr. John Dossett?
First of all, he was also recognized for work in that same season.
Same season,
Was
yes.
that to be sitting there together? I mean, the two of us were just like kids in a candy store. Oh my God, another red grape. Oh my God, there's cheese. Oh my God. I mean, it was just like we were like kids. Yeah, and I don't think, and neither of us thought we were going to win. So, yeah, that was really, really fun.
Was that the year he was nominated for
Yeah,
Gypsy?
same year.
Wow.
I know, right? Very lucky.
On opposite Bernadette Peters, just casually. Sure.
I know. I love it that she calls him her Herbie.
And you're like, well, actually, he's
That's
not.
okay. I was sharing with her. That's
Wow. So did you first meet doing a show
did. We
together?
met at Lincoln Center doing a Michael John LaCusa
Oh,
musical, right? Called Hello Again. That everybody should kind of know because it's rather genius. And yeah, genius. That changed my life in a million. I left Crazy for You to do that, and yeah, best decision ever.
wow. Michael John, I am so in awe of Michael John LaCusa, and I actually just had truly the privilege of I had a work session with him for a new project that he had written, and it was
Wait,
like something I'd never experienced
the
before.
the Jolie Gabor piece.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, I got to be in for that. Isn't it wild?
incredible.
It's incredible. The music, I mean, I guess it's sort of gauche to like talk about things that you were like, I made it to finals for whatever, and I didn't get it. But even just to be in the room with the director Patrick um, and Michael John, to talk about this
Yeah.
work that he had created was so wild. Did you have that same experience doing Hello Again? Like, did you get to work with Michael John on the
Oh
material?
gosh, yes. I mean, it was
So
not
cool.
fully formed. So again, the gift of working at Lincoln Center is, you were rehearsing all day and then doing a version of the show at night and until you open, and then had to stop. But I was in this scene with Malcolm Getz, right? And this was directed by Grazi, right? Like one of
Ugh.
the most delicious humans ever, right? And so generous of spirit and heart. And man, her artistry in this, like one of my favorite experiences ever. And he took this play La Ronde, which has 10 people in it, right? And character 1 meets character 2, character 2 meets character 3, 3 and 4. And the story is about trying to fill, the void in whatever way. And so in the scheme of a circle, I was in scene 8 with Malcolm Getz, right? And it was for Grazi and for Michael John, they were like, oh, now the audience is on to us. Like they understand the format. We need to break the form. Mm-hmm. And so that scene, more than any other in the show, was in rehearsal all the time. We rehearsed and put on stage at least 6 versions of that scene, and I think more. So much so at the end, we ended up with a silent film, which was very different and did kind of shake up the thrust of the night. But I just came across it the other day. Michael John made me and Malcolm, I'm sure, what he's called the Scene 8 songbook. And it's this thick, and it's every version of that scene that we had done over the
Oh
course
my
of the
God.
run.
That's so special though, because how, like, you don't often get
Oh,
that, like, the ability to recall and
yeah,
like remember all the different options you
I know.
had.
I just crossed it the other
Wow.
day. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And you're right. Many of them I'd forgotten. Like, oh, right, we did that. Oh,
Yeah. Well, and on top of it all, through the process met
yeah,
your
yes.
partner of years. I mean, how special that you were able to form such a bond, obviously, but then to be able to say that you have been partners through so many things and you've worked together. I mean, doing Wicked as Morrible and the Wizard that's just so, that's like, the quintessential like Broadway romance dream, I would imagine. It's like, how do you even ask for something better than that?
I couldn't ask for anybody better than him. I mean, he is a dream. I don't really know what I did to deserve it, but like we've been together around 30 years at this point. Amazing, right? And every day is just like, yeah, it's a gift. It's a gift. And we made this beautiful boy who's just incredible, Man.
I love it.
Oh, but he was like always my boy, you know what I mean?
Of
Yeah.
course.
So look, in the scheme of a lifetime, yeah. What?
Wow. Well, Michele, you are just such a dream. Before I let you go, I have a series of musical theater rapid fire questions that I ask every guest. Not trivia. These are things specifically to
Oh
you.
God. Okay. Okay. Good. So I couldn't have prepared for this, right?
No,
Great,
not
because I
at all.
didn't.
Are you
Yeah, I
ready?
think so.
Sondheim or Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Sondheim.
Sweatpants or jeans?
Sweatpants. I'm in right now.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Once on This Island. Yeah.
Ooh. Do you have a least favorite musical?
Oh, child. I cannot say that. Anyway, I've got about 10 though that I tell my students, don't sing from that. Please don't sing from that. Yeah.
Love.
But I can't tell you what they are.
She'll tell me off the record. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Me too. Do you have a favorite show that you've ever done?
That question does get asked, like, because I think the assumption is that everybody has one, but they're like your children. You know what I mean? They're very,
Yes.
Hollywood Arms was special. The bounce I got to do with Steve and Hal Prince, that's special. And people I've worked with, crazy. I mean, Cabaret. I mean, so no.
Cabaret with Alan Cumming.
Yeah.
The original revival. And you were Cost.
Yeah, it was Cost. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just...
I learned more in that musical probably than I learned in anything I've ever done. Yeah.
I think that's my favorite musical of all time.
Oof, it's kind of a perfect music. It's
perfect. Have you seen the revival?
I did. Revival? Yeah. I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you think of the hardest show that you've ever done?
Hard in what way? Clarifying question, please.
Either in terms of stamina or in terms of subject material, or if it was the hardest, in like a certain time of your life.
Well, I've done some things that were frustrating because they didn't end up being as good as I thought they were, and those were hard for many reasons. But to be honest, I never worked harder than I did on Cabaret. Like, I had to learn to play the accordion, and then doing these incredible scenes with these people who were just so much better than I was. I felt challenged in a lot of ways. And then, Rob Marshall choreographed it, and then I was dancing with all these girls that were, 15 years younger. So that one, I worked really hard on that one. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a hard story to tell.
Oh yeah, 8 shows a week.
I would stand behind those doors, before the beginning of the play, and tears would be streaming down my face, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to tell this? And which was kind of the right place to be to tell that story.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a hard moment in history, that time.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite costume you've ever worn? And is it Maisie Lovebird?
William I Belong. I probably Irene's clothes. And when I think about William, he's cast me in a bunch of Crazy for You. Those clothes were incredible. But Zuber is delicious, and you feel. I've been really lucky to work with collaborative designers, right? Who want to know how it makes you feel in the clothes.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, my last question for you is a question I ask every guest, which is, what is one thing that you would tell baby Michele?
Man, be kind to yourself. Be kind. Practice kindness. That now that I'm old, I'm having a little more grace with that. But that's like a hard thing. We're so hard on ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. Would you tell the listeners where they can find you on socials and keep up with you?
You can't find me on socials. So if you're a friend and you have my phone number,
Otherwise, you can catch Michele Pawk in the new original musical Just in Time at the Circle in the Square on Broadway in 2025. And if you don't have access to her, too damn bad.
I'm really sorry. I was on social media for a hot minute, and I didn't really like it. So I don't do it anymore.
Love. And good for you. Rightfully so. Well, Michele, you are just such a delight. Thank you so much. This was so
Thank
fun.
you, Jake. This was a blast.
You guys, that's it for another episode of Oh My Pod, you guys. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe anywhere you listen to the pod, and you can follow the show on Instagram at Oh My Pod, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Talk soon. Bye.